Well, a happy Thanksgiving Day to you and your family. We've been on quite a journey here looking together at some of our favorite Thanksgiving traditions. We talked about the great stovetop stuffing versus mashed potatoes battle. We dove into the story of pumpkin pie and how a town once delayed Thanksgiving for a whole week because they didn't have enough molasses to make the pumpkin pie. And last time we explored the great American turkey and how Benjamin Franklin thought it should have been our national bird instead of the bald eagle. Well, today we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. I mean, way back, the very beginning. We're talking about Thanksgiving itself today. The holiday that brings all of this together, the history, the myths, the surprising facts, and how a 3-day harvest celebration in 1621 became the fourth Thursday in November that we all know and love today. So let's start at the very beginning, shall we? The very first Thanksgiving in 1621. Now, when most of us think about the first Thanksgiving, we probably have a picture in our mind, right? We picture pilgrims in those black hats with the buckles on them, sitting down with Native Americans for a nice, polite dinner, maybe some turkey and some corn and everybody getting along. Well, the reality was a little different, and honestly, a lot more interesting. So it's the fall of 1621 in Plymouth, Mass., and the Pilgrims, or as they called themselves, the Separatists, they'd been in the New World for about a year now. And let me tell you, that first year was rough. To say they were unprepared would probably be an understatement. About half of the original 102 passengers who came over on the Mayflower didn't survive that first winter. Disease, harsh weather, a lack of food took its toll. It was brutal. But by the fall of 1621, things were starting to look up. They'd had a successful harvest, thanks in large part to the Wampanoag people, specifically a man named Squanto who taught them how to grow corn and where to fish and how to survive in this new land. So Governor William Bradford decides, you know what? Let's have a celebration and let's give thanks for this harvest. And here's where it gets interesting. It wasn't just a one-day banquet like you probably have pictured in your mind. It was actually a 3-day festival. And it wasn't just the Pilgrims. The Wampanoag leader, Massasoit, showed up with about 90 of his people. So you've got roughly 50 Pilgrims and 90 Wampanoag together celebrating for 3 days. And what are they eating? Well, we talked about this a little bit before. Probably not turkey, or at least we're not sure. The only written account just mentions fowl. But we know they had venison because the Wampanoag brought 5 deer. And based on their location, they probably had seafood like lobster, mussels, and fish, corn, obviously, squash, and no pumpkin pie yet. Remember, they didn't have the molasses or the ovens to make it yet, so sorry, Sarah Josepha Hale. Oh, and you know what else they didn't have? Forks. Interesting. Most people ate with their hands, maybe a knife, maybe a spoon. Can you imagine 3 days of feasting? No forks, no football, no Macy's parade, just people, food, and gratitude. Then this long gap. Something a lot of people don't realize, that after that 1621 celebration, Thanksgiving kind of disappeared for a long time. It wasn't an annual thing. It wasn't a national holiday. In fact, for the next 150 years or so, Thanksgiving celebrations were sporadic and regional. Some colonies would declare days of Thanksgiving after a good harvest or maybe a military victory, but nothing really consistent. And it certainly wasn't the same day everywhere. And George Washington proclaimed a national day of Thanksgiving in 1789 to celebrate the new Constitution. But then it faded away again. Some presidents declared Thanksgiving days, some didn't. And Thomas Jefferson actually refused to declare one because he believed in the separation of church and state, and he thought Thanksgiving proclamations were too religious, which kind of gives us some insight into who was grateful and to whom they were grateful to. there was an early Christian attitude of gratitude from the separatists that was carrying on through the Christians. So for most of early American history, Thanksgiving was just not really a thing at all, which is kind of wild, right? Kind of contrary to how we picture it. So again, we come back to Sarah Josepha Hale, the mother of Thanksgiving, as she re-enters the story. We mentioned her in every episode so far, and there's a reason for that. This woman was relentless. Sarah Josepha Hale, she was the editor of a popular magazine called Godey's Lady's Book, and starting in 1827, she began a campaign to make Thanksgiving a national holiday. She wrote editorials, she published recipes, she painted this beautiful picture of what Thanksgiving could be. Families coming together, turkey on the table, pumpkin pie for dessert, and everyone giving thanks together. But here's the thing, she didn't just write about it, like she took action. She wrote letters and letters and letters, lots of letters to governors, to congressmen, to presidents. For nearly 40 years, she campaigned for a national Thanksgiving holiday. And finally, in 1863, right in the middle of the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln listened. The country was torn apart, brother fighting brother, and Lincoln thought, maybe we need something to unite us. Maybe we need a day to come together and give thanks. So on October 3rd, 1863, Lincoln issued a proclamation declaring the last Thursday in November as a national day of Thanksgiving. And just like that, Thanksgiving became official. Thanks to Sarah Josepha Hale's 40 years of persistence and Lincoln's wisdom during one of the darkest times in American history. But wait a minute. What's a good story without some conflict and controversy, right? We'll call this FDR's Thanksgiving controversy, or Franksgiving. Now you'd think once Lincoln made it official, that would be the end of the story, right? Nope. Fast forward to 1939. And we've got another presidential Thanksgiving drama. So President Franklin D. Roosevelt, he's looking at the calendar and he notices that in 1939, there's 5 Thursdays in November. Thanksgiving, following Lincoln's proclamation, would fall on November 30th, the very last day of the month. And FDR is thinking, well, that doesn't leave a lot of time for Christmas shopping. Remember, this is during the Great Depression, and the economy needs all the help it can get. So FDR decides to move Thanksgiving up 1 week to November 23rd to give retailers more shopping days before Christmas. Well, you can imagine, people lost their minds. Half the states went along with it. Half of them refused. It split families. Some were celebrating on all these different days. Football schedules were thrown into chaos. People started calling it Franksgiving, kind of mocking, but kind of serious. Who is this joker trying to move Thanksgiving? What are they going to do next? Like try to change the time the sun rises and sets? Give me a break. Well, this went on for a couple years until finally in 1941, Congress stepped in and said, okay, everybody, calm down. Enough is enough. We've got this. It's official. Thanksgiving is the 4th Thursday in November, period. End of story. And that's where it's been ever since. Can you imagine the family arguments? We're celebrating on the 23rd. No, we're doing it the 30th. That's it. I'm not coming if the real Thanksgiving's not going to be observed. Even back then. So how did we get from a 3-day harvest festival with no forks to what we have today? Well, traditions build up over time. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade started in 1924. Originally, it featured live animals from the Central Park Zoo. Can you imagine live bears and elephants marching down Broadway? Fortunately, they switched to balloons in 1927, and it's been a staple ever since. Football on Thanksgiving, that started in 1876 with college games, and the NFL picked it up in 1934 when the Detroit Lions hosted the Bears for the first professional Thanksgiving game. Now, we can't imagine Thanksgiving without football. The presidential turkey pardon, we talked about that last time. It became official in 1989 with President George H.W. Bush, though presidents had been receiving ceremonial turkeys since the 1870s. And watching the parade, eating too much, falling asleep on the couch during the game, those are traditions that we've just built over time as a culture, as Americans. Thanksgiving has become this beautiful blend of history and gratitude and family and food and, yeah, a little bit of chaos. So here we are in 2025, and Thanksgiving looks a lot different than it did in 1621. We've got 46 million turkeys being consumed today. We have Butterball's Turkey Talk line with 100,000 questions. We have people traveling clear across the country to be with family. Airports are packed. Highways are jammed. But you know what? At its core, Thanksgiving is still about the same thing it was 400 years ago. It's about gratitude. It's about coming together. It's about pausing in the middle of our busy lives to say, thank you for this food, for this family, for this moment. Whether your table has turkey or ham, pumpkin pie or pecan pie, stovetop or the original homemade kind stuffing, whether you're watching football or the parade or just enjoying the chaos of too many people in one kitchen and screaming kids running around. Thanksgiving's about connection with the ones we love. And maybe that's why Sarah Josepha Hale fought so hard for it. Maybe that's why Lincoln declared it in the middle of a civil war. Because even when things are hard, maybe especially when things are hard, we need reasons to gather. We need reasons to give thanks. We need to pause and thank the Lord who is sovereignly controlling every detail of our days, all for his glory and our good. We humbly give thanks for the blessings in our lives, big and small. And then we pass these traditions on to the next generation and their families. So that's the story of Thanksgiving from 1621 to today. From the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag sharing a 3-day feast, to Sarah Josepha Hale's 40-year campaign, to Lincoln's proclamation, to FDR's Franksgiving controversy, to the traditions we love today. And it's been a journey for us too, hasn't it? We've talked about stuffing and pumpkin pie and turkey, and now the holiday itself. I hope you've enjoyed these stories as much as I have putting them together for you. From all of us, the Younger Families table, to yours, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. May your turkey be moist, your pie be sweet, your family be grateful, and your heart be full. Thanks for listening. Happy Thanksgiving.